Get ready because the news cycle is moving at lightning speed, and we've got the inside track on the stories that matter most. This is Qualcomm Pulse, and we're diving into a week of seismic shifts and surprising developments. First up, a major shakeup in national security. Next, a monumental shift in the tech industry as the government takes a significant stake in a semiconductor giant, a move that's already sending ripples through the market. And that's not all. We're digging deeper into this unprecedented partnership and what it means for the future of chip manufacturing and national interests. Finally, we're looking at the broader implications of these bold moves and what they signal for the industry. Stick around for all the details, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss an update. A high-level ouster amidst strategic disagreements. In a significant development within the national security apparatus, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has reportedly dismissed Lieutenant General Jeffrey Cruz, the head of the Defense Intelligence Agency. This decision, confirmed by individuals close to the matter and a White House official, stems from an intelligence assessment that reportedly clashed with President Donald Trump's assertions regarding the damage to Iranian nuclear sites following U.S. strikes. The assessment suggested that Iran's nuclear program had only been set back by a few months, a finding that contradicted Trump's public pronouncements of the program being completely and fully obliterated. The lack of a public explanation for Cruz's dismissal, alongside the simultaneous firings of Vice Admiral Nancy Lacour, Chief of the Navy Reserve, and Rear Admiral Milton Sands, who oversees Naval Special Warfare Command, has raised concerns. These actions are part of a broader pattern observed during the Trump administration, characterized by a perceived tendency to move against military and intelligence leadership, and to revoke security clearances of perceived adversaries. Critics, including Senator Mark Warner and Representative Jim Hims, have voiced alarm, suggesting these firings could stifle dissent within the intelligence community and signal that intelligence assessments must align with the administration's interests. Warner stated, "The firing of yet another senior national security official underscores the Trump administration's dangerous habit of treating intelligence as a loyalty test rather than a safeguard for our country." Hims added that without a clear explanation, it's reasonable to assume this is another politically motivated decision intended to create an atmosphere of fear within the intelligence community. This trend of dismissals, often without formal explanation, has seen numerous high-ranking officials removed, including the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff and top legal officers across military branches. The administration's approach appears to prioritize alignment with the president's views over the independent analysis of intelligence agencies, a strategy that has drawn sharp criticism from lawmakers and national security experts alike, who fear it could undermine the integrity and effectiveness of the U.S. intelligence apparatus. But what does this mean for the delicate balance of power and information? Stay tuned as we unravel the next major industry play. Government takes historic stake in Intel amidst strategic realignment. In an unprecedented move that signals a dramatic shift in the relationship between the U.S. government and the semiconductor industry, President Trump has confirmed that the U.S. government will acquire a 10% stake in Intel. This landmark deal, valued at approximately $10 billion, follows a series of high-level discussions between Trump and Intel CEO Lip-Bu Tan, discussions that reportedly began after Trump publicly called for Tan's resignation due to alleged, highly conflicted ties with China. Tan's prior leadership at Cadence Design, a firm that pleaded guilty to charges of selling chip design products to a Chinese military university, had drawn scrutiny. However, following a meeting with Trump, the tone shifted, with Trump describing the encounter as interesting and Tan's success story as amazing. During a press briefing, Trump detailed his proposal. "I said, you know what? I think the United States should be given 10% of Intel." And he said, "I will consider that." Trump emphasized that Intel, once a dominant force in the chip industry, had fallen behind competitors like NVIDIA, attributing this decline partly to a lack of assertive trade policies. He stated that if past administrations had imposed significant tariffs on companies shifting production overseas, particularly to Taiwan, such a departure might have been prevented. The announcement of the government's equity stake sent Intel's stock climbing, closing up nearly 6%. Further details emerged through an Intel press release, clarifying that the government's investment amounts to $8.9 billion for a 9.9% stake at $20.47 per share. This investment will be funded by $5.7 billion from previously awarded but unpaid grants under the U.S. CHIPS and Science Act, and $3.2 billion from the Secure Enclave program, which supports domestic semiconductor manufacturing. Intel reaffirmed its commitment to its Secure Enclave obligations and to providing secure semiconductors to the U.S. Department of Defense. Crucially, the government's stake will be passive, with no board representation or governance rights. This deal represents a significant escalation in the administration's efforts to bolster domestic chip manufacturing and an extraordinary willingness from a major CEO to cede unprecedented control to the president. The move comes as Intel navigates challenges, including stumbles in the AI GPU market dominated by NVIDIA and recent revenue declines. Analysts are closely watching how this equity arrangement will impact Intel's strategic direction and its ambitious plans for new chip production facilities in Ohio. But this isn't just about one company, it's about a new era of government-industry partnership. What's next on the horizon? Presidential dealmaking. U.S. secures 10% stake in Intel. President Trump announced a significant development in U.S. industrial policy, revealing that the U.S. government will acquire a 10% stake in Intel. This agreement, confirmed by Trump following a meeting with Intel CEO Lip-Bu Tan, marks a novel approach to bolstering domestic semiconductor manufacturing. Agreed, and they've agreed to do it, and I think it's a great deal for them, Trump told reporters, adding that Tan walked in wanting to keep his job, and he ended up giving us $10 billion for the United States. In a statement, Intel confirmed the government's $8.9 billion investment in its common stock, a move framed as reflecting the administration's confidence in Intel's role in advancing national priorities and expanding the domestic semiconductor industry. The funding for this stake is multifaceted, with $5.7 billion sourced from unallocated grants under the CHIPS and Science Act, a law designed to incentivize domestic chip production, and an additional $3.2 billion from the Defense Department's Secure Enclave program, which supports U.S.-based semiconductor manufacturing. Intel has already received $2.2 billion in CHIPS grants, bringing the total government allocation to $11.1 billion. The government's purchase of 433.3 million primary shares at $20.47 per share secures a 9.9% ownership stake. Notably, this stake is passive, granting the government no board representation or specific governance rights, and the government has agreed to vote with the company's board on most shareholder matters. Trump hailed the deal on Truth Social as a great deal for America and also a great deal for Intel, emphasizing the critical nature of semiconductor production for national security. This transaction represents a significant escalation in the administration's strategy to encourage chipmakers to manufacture within the U.S., and highlights a new level of executive influence over corporate strategy. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick had previously indicated that the government would leverage committed CHIPS Act funding to secure equity in chip companies, a sentiment echoed by Senator Bernie Sanders, who argued for taxpayer returns on government investments. However, the administration's strategy appears selective, focusing on companies that may not be increasing their U.S. investments independently, such as TSMC, while not necessarily seeking stakes in those already expanding domestically. Intel, facing challenges in areas like AI chip production and recent revenue declines, sees this as a critical juncture. Analysts are assessing the long-term implications of this government equity, particularly concerning future customer demand for its manufacturing facilities and its overall competitive positioning. This groundbreaking deal raises many questions about the future of industry and government. What other major shifts are on the horizon? Trump announces U.S. to acquire 10% stake in Intel. President Donald Trump revealed that the U.S. government will acquire a 10% stake in Intel, a move he characterized as a mutually beneficial agreement following his discussions with Intel CEO Lip-Bu Tan. The stake is valued at $10 billion, and Trump indicated that the deal was finalized after he had previously called for Tan's resignation, citing concerning ties to the Chinese Communist Party. Trump recounted the meeting, stating that Tan walked in wanting to keep his job and he ended up giving us $10 billion for the United States. He further elaborated, "I said, I think it would be good having the United States as your partner." He agreed, and they've agreed to do it, and I think it's a great deal for them. Sources suggest that Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick played a key role in advocating for the U.S. to acquire significant stakes in chip makers in exchange for CHIPS Act funding. This approach aligns with Senator Bernie Sanders' view that if microchip companies make a profit from the generous grants they receive from the federal government, the taxpayers of America have a right to a reasonable return on that investment. However, Trump's strategy appears targeted. The administration is reportedly less inclined to seek equity in companies like TSMC that are already increasing their U.S. investments. This selective approach suggests a focus on companies where government involvement might be seen as necessary to secure or enhance domestic manufacturing capabilities. Intel, which has faced recent market challenges and reported net losses, is pursuing significant investments in new chip production facilities. The long-term impact of this government equity stake on Intel's strategic decisions, manufacturing output, and overall market competitiveness remains a key area of analysis for industry observers. These major policy shifts signal a dynamic landscape. What else is making headlines today? We've covered a major shakeup in intelligence leadership, a historic government stake in Intel, and the broader implications for U.S. industry. Don't miss our next episode for more crucial updates. Be sure to like this video, subscribe to Qualcomm Pulse for your daily dose of tech and policy news, and ring that notification bell. Also, follow us on all social media platforms to stay in the loop. Thanks for watching.